Blam! There's a little bit of footage on the Becker BK2, guys, and I want my wife to talk about it for a bit because this knife is her knife. And you first purchased it, what, 12 years ago?
Actually, it was a little over 12 years ago. For our first Christmas, he got me a BK2.
Yeah, and you know you're winning if your wife asks you to buy her a Becker BK2.
Well, you definitely got the ring on the finger.
So why don't you just tell everybody here why you picked this knife and what you've done with it since then.
The main reason I picked this knife was it had the reputation of being highly durable, and I tend to break things. So I wanted a knife that, if things go bad, I can count on it and rely on it and not worry about it failing on me.
Cool. And what have you done with it since you purchased it?
Just about everything. Yeah, so right after he gave it to me, I would sneak out into the backyard and try to destroy stuff, but I didn't want him to know because, it might seem rude that I was trying to break the gift. But I couldn't break it. I tried hard.
I tried to break it too. We were both really hard on the knife. And then we also homesteaded for 2 years. And you wore this knife every day during that time period also.
Yeah.
And that was not long after we purchased the knife.
No, it was like a year. I had it a year for city living, and then we homesteaded. And I used it for everything from the kitchen to cutting brush, you name it. I was doing it with this knife when we were first homesteading. When I first got the knife, though, Becker, they come with these cheesy kind of plastic handles that are slick when they get wet. And I didn't really like those, but I dealt with them for years. And then about 5 years ago, I stole his handles and upgraded.
She stole them off my BK5.
I do.
That's why it's got the black Gravry scales on it right now. And you like the micarta much more?
Yeah, it makes it heavier, and this is a heavy knife to begin with, but they're pretty durable. I mean, I did kind of beat them up today, but that adds character. But the nice thing is when they get wet, they get a little tacky, so you're less likely to lose your grip on the knife, which when you're using a hard-used knife, the last thing you want to do is have it go flying out of your hand.
And even today, you carry this knife. Well, you bring it with you everywhere you go, right?
Yeah, it's not my everyday knife anymore. I have my reasons for that, but it's my go-to knife, and I don't leave home without it. I don't go anywhere without it. It's always within arm's reach.
Cool. So there we have it. My wife's Miss Efficient in the Fields, Becker BK2. It's been through everything from homesteading and just being abused to working in the kitchen regularly, right?
Mm-hmm. It was a great camp knife. I use it when we were on the road a lot. I use it to cook all our meals.
Yeah, we did a lot of years off-grid, out in the boonies and stuff like that. And, you want the things you bring with you to be very, functional tools. This is one of the things that went with us. Cool, babe. All right, thanks. Now that you know how my wife feels about her Becker BK2, how should you feel about it? Is this knife gonna work for you in shit hit the fan, pimps? And let's talk about it because that's what this video is all about. It's not just your normal Becker BK2 knife review. Becker BK2 knife review. How many of those have we seen out there? So many of them, it's insane, dudes. No, this is about shit hit the fan. What is your plan? Where are you gonna find yourself? Where do you live right now? What are you gonna have to do? Are you going to have to depend on one tool to pry open car trunks, to pry open the doors to vacant buildings? If that's what you're going to have to do, then guys, this knife is probably going to make a lot of sense for you. On the flip side, if you're deep out in the woods and you're not planning on bugging out to begin with, and if you have to, you're going to be out in a place where you're never going to run into anybody else, a lot like my situation, I'm not going to bring a knife like this. My wife is still going to bring it because you know what? She loves this knife and she knows how she is. And my rooster right now is seriously doing this. And I cannot trust him, man. Cannot turn your back to him. So hold on a minute. All right, let's get back on track now that I'm not worried about getting spurred in the back of my head by my rooster. As I mentioned, dudes, my wife is definitely going to be taking this knife with us if we had to bug out. And why? Well, even though we're out in the boonies, and if we had to bug out, we're probably not going to see anybody ever again, let alone have to pry a door open or pry a car trunk open. She knows how she is. And, it's an intelligent thing to know yourself. And thinking about it, dudes, I'll be honest, if she had a knife that wasn't robust, at some point in time, she probably would end up breaking the tip off of it. So know yourself. Know how you operate and, equip yourself accordingly. I always say, guys, there's no cookie cutter approach to shit hit the fan. We're all a little different. We all use different techniques to a degree and take different approaches and have different thought processes. And so you have to make sure that you equip yourself according to those things. So does this knife fit into that for you? Let's talk about what it's good at, okay? You're not going to break it, for one. It's just the way it's built with the drop point and a 1/4 inch thick blade stock. Dude, you're not going to break it, and it's not that long. So you can only apply so much force to the tip. You could dig a hole to China from the U.S. with this freaking knife, man, and it won't break. It probably would be like, not as long as it was anymore from being all worn down from you, freaking 7 dwarfs in it and shit through rock, okay? And no, realistically speaking, yeah, probably wouldn't make it all the way to China, but you guys get the idea. Also, it's going to be great at batoning, but is batoning a real survival skill? It's not going to be for most people, but if you're one of those people that finds yourself in a highly populated part of the country, you're probably going to be dealing with that more often. I'll be honest with you guys. A lot of bushcrafters are like, oh, I need to be able to baton wood so I can get to the dry wood in the center of a dead tree. Well, you know what you could also do? You could also spend an extra 5 minutes walking around and find some dry tinder under a dead tree somewhere. There's always dry tinder somewhere. You don't have to baton to survive. There might be situations where batoning is going to save you some time, or it's going to save you some calories. That could definitely come up. I just don't think it's one of the big ones, but you're going to have to decide on your own. Are you in a situation where you might have to disassemble fences and burn them to keep your ass warm and stay alive through the winter? Or disassemble decks, or freaking straight up cannibalize the inside of homes and pry lumber out of them to burn it to stay alive? This can do that job if that's where you might see yourself in shit hit the fan. The BK2 is also pretty damn good at chopping for what it is. There are not a lot of knives with a 5 1/4 inch long blade that can actually chop. But this thing being so damn heavy, it tends to chop like a 7-inch knife that was designed with light chopping in mind, much like a Becker BK2. It's got that weight in the right spot. And these Ethan Becker handle designs are always great, guys. Always love his handle designs. They're amazing. But you can choke back on this baby and really get a lot of work done with a short knife. Now, it's because of the weight. So if we get into the cons of this thing is heavier than shit, man. This knife, as it is right now, with these micarta scales on it, weighs just a little bit less than my Smith & Wesson M&P 2.09 millimeter with the 5-inch barrel empty. It's freaking heavy, man. I could carry a damn handgun that's lighter than this, loaded. Seriously. If I wanted to go with a Smith & Wesson Model 60 with a 3-inch barrel loaded, man, it's going to weigh less than this knife. So do you need this? Do you need a knife of this dimensions that's this heavy? The blade thickness here, the stock, is just as much of a pro as it is a con. Makes this knife extremely durable. You're never going to break the freaking tip off it, and it's awesome at batoning. But on the flip side, you have a lot of additional friction when you're cutting things, okay? When you cut through things, they are pushing against the sides of the blade, and it is causing friction. This is why you can take any knife design like this, and you can reproduce the same knife with a thinner blade stock, and it is just going to cut better. It's going to cut better, it's going to slice better, it's going to do all cutting tasks better, but it won't be as durable. Let me give you guys my concluding thoughts about this knife. My own personal experience with it, because I have worn this knife for days and days on end and used it for every single task one would need a knife for out in the boonies for days and days on end. I will tell you that this knife has surprised me in the way that it has performed. It acts like a knife with a 2-inch longer blade, and I like larger knives. It is not great at regular cutting tasks, but if you do your part and you stay up on your edge, you know, it's going to be a pretty solid knife. It's pretty much like a one-tool option, guys, this kind of design. And so what that means is you have a knife that is okay at doing a lot of things, but not really great at doing anything in particular. You know, and I would say that this knife is great at doing a handful of things in particular, and I will say that that is batoning 2.5 to 3 inch thick rounds of wood. And is that something that you need to be doing and shit hit the fan? Probably not, right? So for me personally, I would say a no on this knife for me. But on the flip side, my wife always brings it everywhere with us. And there have been moments when I didn't bring a hard use knife because I knew she had her Becker BK2 in her bag. We were in highly populated areas. I could very well find myself in a situation where I needed to pry open trunks or doors, you know? And so this knife has given me peace of mind throughout the years, just knowing that my wife had it in the bottom of her bag, you know? So you guys are going to have to think about it based on your own situation. I would say that for me personally, living at the edge of a big wilderness, and, you know, if I have to bug out, I am not really going to run into any people or find a need to have an indestructible prying tool like this. For me, this would be a no. But like I said, you know, going into cities, towns, going on trips, this knife always goes with us. Always. For a reason. So, you know, if that's you, if you're going to have to bug out through a highly populated area or that's where you live, I would very much consider taking a look at this knife and kind of pimping it with some aftermarket shit. Also, the Knife Connection apparently makes some great G10 scales for these as well. I haven't purchased those, but you might want to check those out. I'm not going to put a link. They don't pay me nothing. You guys can look them up yourself. I think we're going to wrap it right there, guys. You know, done. It's one of the iconic, probably the most iconic hard use knife out there. And it is so for a reason. So for those of you that own BK2s and you love them, comments down below. Those of you that have used them and hate them, comments down below. Let's light up this damn comment section. What do you guys think about this new kind of video I just did? Shit hit the fan gear reviews. I could do all kinds of stuff. I could do freaking chest rigs. I could even get into, you know, firearms. I can take it wherever I want to take it. Do you guys like it? It's the first one, so obviously there's going to be a learning curve and things are going to get better, but let me know in the comments. Like the video, share it, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.